or community to look for a new plant, a new site, they don't ride in on a bus. They fly. They have the corporate jets. And we do not have the welcoming runway and the business-friendly runway. So some of those people were not getting. It was embarrassing the other day. You know, Walmart has done a huge deal with Doug Tingle here at 1888 Mills. And the Walmart people came in to talk to Doug and couldn't land at Griffin Airport on a little runway. They went to Peachtree City, rented a car, and drove over to Griffin. So we couldn't even welcome Walmart brass to our town to talk to someone here that's doing business. If our airport had open land and could be extended, we have a different issue than we have today. But what Robert's going to do is walk you through what we have, what it's like, and our challenges, our difficulties with it, and a little bit about what a new airport means. So this is a fairly long slide presentation, but we're going to try to move it quickly and hit some highlights so you understand the details. So, Robert.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to move as fast as I can through this. As Commissioner Morrow said, it's rather long. But if you do see something and you want to ask me a question, please feel free, because that's what this is about. It's about getting you the information. Here's your Griffin-Spalding Airport. It's built in 1939. It's 74 years old. Here's another picture of it from another angle. Where we would be right now in the air would be about over roses. This is what we look like now. And you can see there's quite a lot of development and growth out and around the airport, and there's really no room to go. It's jointly owned by the city and the county. This is another view of it, and you can see that's our business park on the west side of the airfield, and you can see our runway protection zones, unlike most airports, have facilities and structures inside them. We're a general aviation airport. We're not one of the 9 commercial airports. We're one of the 95 general aviation airports, and general aviation is everything except military and commercial passenger freight. Airfield businesses, you had a lot of that in the presentation, in the video, and we do have quite a bit of business on the airfield. That's our business park, and we've got tenant leases, hangar rents, tie-down leases, and it all generates about $240,000 annually. There's the 54 hangars and tenants, and in that we have Mr. Alexander's Technical Air. I think it's now called Atlanta Aero, if I'm correct. They do composite work, fiberglass, carbon fiber body, the nose cones, very vital and important pieces to a lot of general aviation aircraft. We have Precision Avionics there on the top, and Don's Dream Machines down on the bottom. On the top, Precision Avionics does avionic work, which is your radios and your electrical and your Garmin's and your GPS. And on the bottom, Don's Dream Machine, he does engine maintenance work and airframe work. Over there in the corner, you can't see it right here on the side, that's one of Turbine Solutions hangars. They used to run a charter operation, but they're now running a custom interior and maintenance shop. They have 3 hangars, and they've expressed interest in building a larger hangar to consolidate those 3. We used to have 2 paint shops. We now have 1, Advanced Aircraft Refinishers, and there's a couple of the aircraft that you see there they're getting ready to paint. We do a lot of engine maintenance work. I apologize, that's a little blurry, but that's one of the Life Flight helicopters. Life Flight is also on the field. Air Methods, they used to be called Emory Life Flight. Not only do they have an active air ambulance station here, but they also provide maintenance for their other corporate locations throughout the eastern seaboard. One of the aircraft painted by Advanced Aircraft Refinishers, and it's sitting in front of one of our maintenance shops, Air Wrench. They do power plant, airframe, pretty much anything to do with the aircraft maintenance. There's another P-51 painted again by Advanced Air, and that's them there in the back. They also are in 3 different hangars and would like to build a much larger facility. We do TV and film support. We've had 2 episodes of Monster Garage, 1 Drop Dead Divas, the American premiere episode for Top Gear, And I think we're in talks now with some of the folks with The Walking Dead. These are the businesses that are still in the field. A lot of them I already mentioned. But worrisome over here are some of the businesses that we lost. And at your table, you'll see a page there called Atlanta Regional Airport. And that is Falcon Field. These 3 businesses right here, especially Gardner and Spruce, were started here in Griffin and are now at Falcon Field because Griffin couldn't support the growth. And then just this past year, we lost Aero Paint 2 and their sub and Christian Air Ministry. Fortunately for us, we've been able to put other tenants in those hangars. But I can't keep doing the shell game where somebody leaves and I'm able to put somebody else in it. Eventually, somebody's going to leave and I'm not going to be able to recoup that.
Tell them why they're leaving.
We don't have the space. We don't have the room. They can do larger things for larger aircraft, and we just don't have it.
And also they want to do business, work on business jets, which we can't, for the most part, get here. That's where the money is, and they can go to a longer runway where the business jets can come, and we're losing them.
Correct. That economic impact study video, again, at your table you have the executive summary and the summary for the Griffin-Spalding County Airport. Out of that report, in that report, the Griffin-Spalding County Airport, your airport, out of those 95 general aviation airports, ranked 10th with respect to business. 170 employees are supported by the airport, only 3.5 of them are city employees. It generates a $7 million payroll on the airfield and a $21 million local economic impact, and that's those dollars that are spent and then respent in the community. And this is who runs your airport. I like donuts, so that's me on the left. Martin in the middle, he handles all the businesses, activities, taking payments, accounts receivable, accounts payables, that kind of thing. Will and I, Will's down here on the end, he handles all the airfield maintenance issues, the lights, the infrastructure, anything that goes. Will's really, he's a high-speed individual. If it breaks out there, he'll find a way to fix it. Some of the services that we provide, full aircraft tug, pull out and push back. Right before the economy went bad, we used to have a tenant out there that would go to every Auburn game. And he'd call us up on Friday, they'd pull my plane out, we'd pull it out, that's a $25 fee right there. He'd say fill it up with about 300-400 gallons of jet fuel, we'd fill it up, and then Saturday he would take off, Sunday he'd come back, Monday morning we'd come in and put his aircraft back in the barn. And that happened almost every weekend that Auburn was playing. We have full service tug capability. That's a full tug right there. That's not one of the little ones. We can tug any aircraft that we have a coupler for. We have a 24-hour, 365-day fueling maintenance operation. That means you can come in with your aircraft even when we're not there, go in this shack right here, swipe your credit card and pump your fuel. We have a 14,000-gallon Jet A capability and a 15,000-gallon avgas capability. And the difference that we say is jet fuel is not all just for jets. Anything that's a turboprop engine, the helicopters or the King Airs, they all use the jet fuel. The little single engines, the piston burners, are the ones that use the avgas. It's short for aviation gasoline. And we also do full service. So you pull up and you don't want to pump it yourself, we'll do it for you at an extra charge. We generate about $300,000 annually on fuel, but we are creeping up real close. We hope to break the 400,000 mark this year. We handle all types of aircraft. If you can get it in here, we can pretty much service it. Military as well as general aviation. We do special event call out. This is a Saturday afternoon when we're not normally in the offices, but if you call us, let us know. We'll be there, we'll wait on you, we'll bring the fuel truck up to you, and we'll support your operation. These are some folks coming back from an air show, going back to Terra Field. We gave them a better deal on the fuel and they stopped here. When we get these kind of advance warnings, we tend to let the public know. We get a lot of folks that come out and like to watch, so we get a lot of visitors. And here's also part of that operation. These helicopters were part of that air show, and they came in, and each one of them took on about 50 gallons of fuel. We maintain the field, all the navigational aids, all the lights. There's about 250 lights on the field. This is what they look like up close. Red is the end of the runway. Blue is taxiway. The red and blue split is the technical end of your runway, if you will. The white ones up top here are your runway lights, and they're supposed to be clear. But what we find, especially in the cooler months, is the ant beds like to get up in there and make their nest. That light is actually on. You can see the light coming through there. And we get through there and we'll have to take those apart. Most of the time, if the light's out, it's generally a bulb. But if not, if it's something more intense, because of the age of the infrastructure, everything there is direct buried. And that's a transformer. Each one of those lights has a transformer buried up underneath it. And if that light goes down, Will and I will get out there, we'll dig it up and find out, where we can find places that still support this kind of technology. These are our strobes at the end of the runway, and you can see we're talking transistors and vacuum tubes instead of LED lights. These are our PAPI lights, precision approach pathway indicators. They shoot beams of light out over runway 32, and planes will come in, and there's red light and white light, and depending upon what you see, you can tell whether you're on the proper glide slope, and we maintain those as well. We maintain everything from grass cutting to weed eating to maintaining the runways and taxiways, and this is the equipment we use. We have an AWOS, which is a automated weather observation system. If you call this phone number 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, if it's not hit by lightning, and you can get a snapshot of what the weather is right over Griffin. We're also working right now with Visala, which is our the company that we get this equipment from, that you can get this information on your smartphones as well. These are some of our business visitors. That's an MU2. We used to get him about once a quarter. He doesn't come here much very often any longer, because what we have to do, the way we have to fuel this aircraft, is you have to do it on this side, then on this side, then on that side, and he can't take a full load of fuel. If he took a full load of fuel on a hot summer day, he probably wouldn't get off the ground. So somebody like him might take on about 100 gallons if he's thirsty. Normally our base operations only take on about 30, 40, 50 gallons. We don't get the big movers that take on the 100-gallon type operations. Although we do have most of our business folks fly in on the King Air. Again, they'll only take on maybe 100 gallons, and then we'll move on, if they take fuel at all. This is what our bread and butter is. These are what I call our mom and pop operations. They're folks that work real hard, 20, 30 years, scraped up enough money after retirement and bought themselves a second or third hand aircraft. They used to fly a lot when the fuel prices were low for recreation, but fuel price is really high now, so a lot of these folks don't fly. And again, you're talking about selling them 25 gallons each time they go somewhere. We also have some historic aircraft. Total in aircraft based out of the Griffin-Spalding Airport is about 90 aircraft. That's down from about 112 when we started. Some of our obstacles and challenges, excuse me, we have a very old infrastructure. This is our part of our west taxiway. We had to close the southwest taxiway entirely because this is what it looks like. This is crumbling up, and if that gets sucked up into an engine, we bought the engine, so we had to close it. We still have the full parallel taxiway on the east side, but we do have a degradation in capability because of the aging infrastructure. We have, we're not a destination. Williamson, Peachtree Airport over there, they've got a really nice restaurant. You can go over there on a Saturday afternoon and eat at the restaurant and look out the window and see about maybe 15 or 20 planes sitting on the grass there. They're a destination. That's someplace you go to. The only folks that come to Griffin are either the people who are based here or somebody that may have some business that they need to take care of, and then they leave. We don't have the ability to attract this type of operation. This is what it looks like, again, coming in over Roses, and you can see how short that looks like from the air. When you're coming in really fast in an aircraft, that gets short real quick. And you can see, if you miss that runway, you're looking at buildings and stuff in your runway protection zone. This is, again, coming in over Hill Street. GDOT put that intersection right there, and you can see that some of those poles and lines are right on the center line of that runway. This, as most people don't know, is not the technical end of the runway. This line right here is the technical end of the runway. Our thresholds are displaced 200 feet because we have to have the appropriate clearances from all this stuff right here. And it's again on the other side. So although we have a 3,701 foot runway with 200 feet lopped off on this end and 200 feet lopped off on that end, we've only got about 3,400 of technical runway. There it is from the air, and as you can see, our runway protection zone kind of fans out in a trapezoid shape like this. If we were ever to expand the current airport, if we were to lengthen that runway, we would have to buy this all up because it would all have to be removed out of the protection zone. And then here it is on the 1-4 end. Again, if you were to expand in this direction, you'd have to buy up all these businesses and hangars. Also, there's about a 20 to 30 foot drop off right here. You'd have to fill all that in with dirt, and dirt's very expensive. Additionally, there's a neighborhood right over here and it's tightly packed in. There's a lot of homes you'd have to buy up as well. Okay, now the nuts and bolts. The airport fiscal year 12 budget. This is what we were budgeted, $821,000. Excuse me. This is what we were budgeted without depreciation. This is the actual money that we have to spend as far as operations and maintenance and personnel and all these things you see here. So in actuality, what we spent, if you take out depreciation, last year was about $672,000. That's what we spent. Unfortunately, here's our revenues. And the fuel sales and the lease agreements and the services, we only brought in about $540,000 in revenues. We do not get the credit for the tax that's generated out there. So all the businesses and airplanes and hangars generate ad valorem tax. We do not get credit for that. But if you were to credit us that ad valorem, the total airport operation generates about $652 million. So you can see we're not very close. We're not very far off from what it costs to run the airport. So in a nutshell, what I was just running through real quick, total revenues, that's what the cash that we brought in, total expenditures, that's what we bring out. This is what we normally have as a deficit each year. However, if we were to get the credit for if we were to take out depreciation, which is a budgeting and accounting number that's not actual cash, this would be what we call the operational deficit, which is about $130,000 to $170,000 each year. If we were to get the credit for the ad valorem, that brings the burden to the taxpayer down to about $20,000. Divide that by the number of citizens in Spalding County, it averages out to about 31 cents per person. That is what is the tax burden to the citizen in Spalding County to operate that airport, about 30 to 50 cents per person. So maybe we should move. All right? The Georgia Aviation System Plan. That's the state of Georgia puts out the system plan that says everybody in the state of Georgia should be within a 30-minute drive of at least a 5,000-foot runway. It provides guidelines for the airport development statewide. It classifies your Griffin-Spalding County Airport as an airport of local impact and recommends a minimum of 5,000-foot runway. So that means we'd have to expand the current runway by about 1,299 feet. And it identifies a region east of the city of Griffin as underserved by aviation. And there's that area right there. So if we built the new airport, which is why GDOT supports this project, if we built the new airport out here, it would pretty much cover that gap in the Georgia Aviation System Plan. So we've done a site selection study a couple of years ago. We identified these 8 parcels or these 8 tracts of land that could support an airport of at least 5,000 feet. However, the Butts County landfill, which sits right out here, that line is very faint. You can barely see it. GDOT has imposed a 5-mile ring around the landfill, so that eliminated these 4 sites. So leaving these 4 sites to be graded and evaluated by these conditions over here, infrastructure, environmental considerations, constructability, operational capability, and industrial capability, those were the criteria by which these 4 sites were graded. So this site ended up getting the best value out of all of them. and that site 6 became our primary site. And that's what it looks like to date. This is just a concept drawing. It's got I think we put in a 5,500 foot runway with the runway protection zones on either end, a little bit of an air park here on one side. This is 155, Jackson Road going out to 155. This is Highway 16 or going out to 75. This is the industrial park at the lakes at Green Valley, and we would be right across the street from them. So where are we now? We've completed the site selection study, we've completed the environmental assessment, and last month we received what's called the FONSI, a finding of no significant impact. So we're good to go on our environmental. We're ready and started parts of our airport layout plan, but we're at the point now where we can't go any further because we're at the decision point. And we're ready to start land acquisition. If we were to go and stay on this timeline, we would go into environmental permitting and finish land acquisition in 2014, start construction in 2015 to about 2018, transition from the current airport, those tenants that we have, and get them moved over and moving our offices and buildings and whatnot, and that would take about an 18 to 24 month lap over. So we'd be ready to close the existing airport in about 2019. So what do you get for all that? You get jobs. And I think that was brought home in that video, all kinds of jobs. Jobs to build the airport, local jobs, people who do engineering and architecture, plumbing and hauling, asphalt, grading, electrical, masonry, concrete, asphalt, it's all hauling, it's all there. In addition, then you get the ability to attract new business. Also, you get an airport built to better current FAA safety standards. You get greater access for corporate aircraft, which the Griffin-Spalding Airport does not have at this time. And jets, corporate aircraft are generally your jets, and jets are where the money is. They take on the large volumes of fuel. They have the higher dollar ad valorem. We've also planned into the new airport future expansion potential, so we have everything we need so we not run into the same problem that the current airport has run into. And then we have the economic development opportunities, which we mentioned in the video. A little comparison, you got PDK Airport, and PDK is the granddaddy of all general aviation airports in the state of Georgia. They're financially self-sufficient. They require no general tax funds whatsoever. They're a capitalist enterprise within the county. They have a $10.4 million FY13 budget, 6.4 in reserve, 2.7 in operations, 1.3 in contributions to the county. They fund their own local match. So anytime they get a grant, they fund it, not the city or the county.
And I'm going to interrupt you a minute, Robert.
Yes,
Because I put this in. Mike Van Wee, who's the director, came down and put on a presentation for us. And we hear so much in the press about, oh, airports are black holes, losing all this money, keep putting money in, which is absolutely not the case. It is true that ours is a money loser because we're stuck without business jets. But that $1.3 million is profit they turn over to the county. The county doesn't have to fund them, they have all this extra money. You should make money operating an airport. You have fuel sales, hangar leases, tie downs, land leases, businesses on the airport. The airport, run properly, with an adequate runway, makes money, and PDK is just one of them, and they make about $2.7 million a year free and clear profit on the airport. That's nothing to do with the ad valorem of all the airplanes and business buildings sitting there. That's just operating profit from operating the airport. You see we're losing about $130,000. We ought to be making money. I don't assume we're going to make $2.7 million anytime soon, but we ought to be making money and working toward that same thing. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, PDK is an economic engine, and that's what we view airports are, as economic engines. They got 225 leases. We've got 55. And that's big and small, simple, complex, old, new, short, and long, the whole gamut. This is what we want to grow up to be way out in the future. And then they've got a staff of about 21 employees.
Robert.
Yes,
before
sir.
you change there, could you talk about PDK's special project that they've got
Yeah,
coming up?
thank you. PDK has also used up a lot of its land, and they've got a few areas left for economic development. So they've constructed an area that they are, and it's just dirt. They've done the grading and drainage, and they've compacted the dirt. And what they plan to put on are two 12,000 square foot corporate hangars and 4 10-bay T-hangers, so 40 T-hangers and 2 corporate hangars. They are already spoken for. The buildings have not been built. The asphalt has not been put down, but those buildings are already dedicated to somebody. So why not just expand where you are? Well, here really are your 3 options. The first option here is don't do anything. You keep your 3,700 foot runway, handles the 30,000 pound aircraft, 50% of the general aviation fleet, which for business in our area is going to be about the King Air, and the cost over the next 5 years, based on our capital improvement plan, is going to be about $5 million. That is solely towards infrastructure. That is not for any kind of capital development. Or you can expand your current airport. In order to do the site selection study, FAA says you need to look at both your current capabilities and your what you want new. So we had to look at expanding the current airport. So what we found out was you can get a runway of about 4,750, still at your 30,000 pound threshold. You get a little bit larger jet, some of your larger citation type aircraft. You'll get 65% of the general aviation fleet. However, in order to make your current airport viable, you're going to have to put about $80 million into it. That's infrastructure and new development. Or you can build a brand new on the new track that we have talked about. You get 100 feet to 6,000 feet. You get the 75,000 pound threshold, which is your G4s and G5 type aircraft, and you service about 94% of the general aviation fleet, and the price tag for that is about $60 million. Why don't we just close the current airport? Well, a lot of folks say, well, it's losing money, just get rid of it. Well, what you have to do is you have to pay back the FAA for 20 years of your FAA grants. You have to pay back the FAA 90 to 95% of the current market value. And the reason why it's 90 to 95 is when you do a grant, it's usually a 95, 5% split, and FAA just went to the 90-10% split. So it's somewhere in between 90 and 95% of its current market value. So whatever the current market value of 90% of the current airport is, that's what you got to pay back to the airport. So your grants that you got to pay back and your current market value is, we have estimated to be about $20 to $25 million. This is all local money. This is what you have to pay back to the FAA if you want to close the current airport. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's just, I don't want to have to front more tax money to build this airport. Why has it got to be more tax money, more tax money? Well, it is tax, but it's a user tax. If you buy an airline ticket, that airline, a part of that goes into this FAA bank. If you're an airline and you buy fuel or if you buy equipment, whatever, there's a tax on that that goes into this bank. If you're a mom and pop flyer and you go to Griffin Spalding Airport and you buy some fuel, you pay tax on that fuel, it goes into this bank. And that is called the Airport Improvement Program Trust Fund, and that's what's used to pay for 90% of your airport improvement projects. So 90% of that $60 million is paid for out of this FAA Trust Fund. And here's a concept drawing of the Atlanta Airport South at Griffin Spalding, just something that we're aspiring to be. A new terminal building, the ramp, some corporate aircraft, some of our tenants to go along with us, and something to look forward to in the future. This is Falcon Field. This is a Falcon jet over at Falcon Field. It is Cooper Lighting's jet. Also Truett Cathy, when we were over there a couple of years ago, had a Falcon jet as well. This is also Truett Cathy's Citation jet, and I'll explain this one on the bottom. But while we were there talking with them, we were there about 2 hours, the Cooper Lighting jet took on 1,000 gallons and flew out. A couple of minutes later, Cathy's Falcon jet flew in, took on 1,000 gallons, and went to the barn. In that 1 hour, 2,000 gallons of jet fuel were sold. It takes me about 2.5 to 3 weeks to sell 2,000 gallons of jet fuel.
And it's sold to helicopters, because the jets can't basically come in. But those helicopters out there have little jet engines. That's where virtually all of our jet engine fuel is being sold.
Now, the building here on the bottom, this is Gardner Aviation. All right, they got a Beechcraft in there, a couple of helicopters, and a twin-engine aircraft in the back. They grew, and they had to move over to Falcon Field to accommodate that growth. All right, so what happens? You take those 4 run-of-the-mill, everyday, corporate-type aircraft, jets, over at Falcon Field, and you apply the Griffin-Spalding County tax rate to them. All right, here they are on the side. These are their values. These are their assessed values. And actually, this is 2009, so those are the millage rate for Griffin, Spalding County, and the school board. On those 4 jets, it generates $1.3 million in ad valorem. Down here, these last 2 lines, Griffin Spalding Airport, these are all our aircraft, 33,000. These are all our buildings, 72,000, 73,000. So we generate, with everything out there, about 110,000 in ad valorem. 4 jets at Falcon Field generate 10 times that amount. 588,000 to the school board, 434,000 to the county, 270,000 to the city on 4 jets. These are some case studies. Statesboro, Jackson County, Franklin, and Douglas, they all had smaller runways. These are their jobs per prior to their expansion. They expanded, and then these are the jobs over a 5-year period that they grew after expansion. And I've got the write-up on these case studies. If anybody wants that, just let me know and I can forward that on to you. Of those case studies, 5,000 jobs were generated, an average of 1,288 jobs per airport, and these are the percentage breakdowns: manufacturing, processing, construction, transportation, retail, and other. So what are we talking about here? 1 mile of roadway gets you down the road 1 mile, whereas 1 mile of runway gets you anywhere in the nation. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions before we move to the next piece?
All right, what I'd like to do.
What does it cost? $20 million less to renovate an airport than it is to build?
Because you have to tear up the old airport. We've got a lot of old infrastructure that's got to come out, and then you got to put it back down. You got to grade it, you got to drain it because it's not sufficient as it is now, and then you got to put it all back down brand new.
Plus, you got to buy up all that property again, these airports. Once out there, you've got those businesses on Ann Street, and all that out there, and the Roses.
And the Roses Shopping
It's
Center.
about $20 million extra to buy up property and get rid of it, extend the airport. So you can go out where it's projected and it's relatively undeveloped. It's only about 50 or 55 parcels of land, and I think only a total of 23 little dwellings out in that area. So
Also, none of that is anything towards new development. So we have that grass area that's not used at the current airport. You would have to put in a new taxiway and all kinds of hangars in order for you to even start making any of that money back.
okay, let me introduce the next so we can move along. This is where it gets complicated, folks, and we apologize. We'll try to make this understandable. We were asked to do the business plan. This is a free one done by our consultants in anticipation of moving ahead. Part of your airport development plan process going through the new one is a formal, in-depth economic analysis. This is a simplified one as part of the beginning of that work. What we're doing here is going to give you a year-by-year projection of the existing airport. On your sheet here it says current airport. The flip side is the cash flow analysis of a new airport. LPA, Mike Ryder, it's now Michael Baker, no longer LPA, who's been our consultant at the airport for years, handling grants and all that with us. And he's going to walk you through what numbers they put based on their estimates of future activity, which are pretty modest. We're like, there he is. I'll come around and
Mike, you need to point.
and this is a lot more numbers and stuff to digest, folks, so we're getting tougher as we go. This is the last section.
All right. So what we were asked to do was to kind of take a look and try to put some numbers to the story that you've just heard. And so we took a look at, if we could, Robert, let's start off, change my approach a little bit. If we start with the existing airport.
All right.
So what we've done is we've gone and, with the help of Robert, gone through and taken a look at the existing books over the last 3 years. And we've tried to quantify you see at the top, the revenue that comes in at the airport. We quantified the expenses that we have at the airport. But then we also took, as Robert noted, because we do operate at a deficit out there, what does that look like as we look into the future? Also, as Robert mentioned, if we decide to stay where we're at, there's a significant amount of capital investment, about $5 million worth, to kind of bring the place up to speed. And that's excluding any new developments, just kind of getting what's there up to an appropriate standard, if you will. While you all have been evaluating the new airport initiative, we've worked with GDOT and the FAA to make some decisions to defer some things in anticipation of what the final decision will be. And we put this spreadsheet together, and one thing you'll notice as it goes from year 0, meaning today's time, and looking into the future X number of years, one thing that you'll notice that because of the limitation that the runway length has and the lack of development at the airport, the airport never breaks even. You consistently, year after year, and it end up with about a $200,000 to $250,000 deficit, and that just kind of keeps going on year after year after year because we just don't have the revenue generating potential at the current airport to kind of to make it break even. When you look out to year 20, you'll notice that over the course of the next 20 years, the airport continues to be a drain on the local finances and so forth, to the tune of almost $5 million over that 20-year period. So we kind of put that together to kind of show you a baseline of what kind of doing nothing and just kind of trying to make what you have work. There are limitations to it. As was mentioned during the course of our presentation today, the real revenue generating power in aviation comes from the ability to service and to provide access to corporate aviation and to business. So we took another look and took a look as what do we do if, how do the finances look if we go to a new airport? So that should be the back side of your, or the flip side, I should say, of your sheet. What we've done here is we've made a few assumptions going into this. We assume that while we would certainly hope that 100% of your current tenants would make the move to the new facility, we downgraded the revenues by 10%, saying that 10% of the people may not choose to relocate for whatever reason they may have. We didn't want to be overly optimistic, if you will, in our projection. Also with the expenses, we downgraded those from the current facility. We took a 70% level, excluding salaries. The reason we did that is when you go to a new facility, you don't have the maintenance issues that you have with a facility that has age on it. This analysis is looking at once the new airport is open, what do the new airport finances look like? What you'll see here as you go to at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that this is after opening day. And so for the first 5 years after opening day, because it is a new facility, we're showing that there is no new additional capital projects, because when you open it up, you're trying to open it up at a point where it meets the needs of the current demand and so forth. This analysis, if you look at year 9, probably you can slide over just a little bit to the right. if you look at year 9, you'll see that 9 years after opening, the airport actually breaks even and is in the black. This also accounts for, and at this point, the analysis shows that we're trying to also recoup some of the investment that has been made over the past few years. It's really more of a policy decision for the decision makers whether the new airport should, should we treat it as a new entity, or does it need to recoup some of the investments that have and some of the negative balance that exists from the recent past. That's whether you want to do that or not. The spreadsheet can be modified certainly to express that. One thing you'll notice that in year 13, you'll see that in that what I call like a tan color near the top there, you'll see that in year 12 to year 13, the airport is actually operating at a profit, so that actually money can be put back into a fund, similar to what PDK does, where you can actually start to accumulate a balance in your checkbook, if you will, to pay for, hopefully someday, maybe even be able to afford to pay for your own, your local match of federal grant, your 10% match, your 5% match of local grants, whatever that equation may be in the future. If you look at year 20, based on the projections that we have made, the cash balance is to the tune of $2 million. So certainly this analysis, to be fair, is a view down the road. It's not an immediate impact. Both the existing airport and the new airport scenarios we see here will initially operate at a deficit, and with the new airport initiative, it'll start to go into the black, as I said, after year 9. And I think, Robert, we have a graphic of that to kind of visually show that. And so here's kind of the year-end cash balance. What does it take for us? What does it really mean to us in our pocketbook, if you will? And you can see that the new airport, well, it will require an investment to get started. The facility is such that it provides the opportunity to handle, and the longer runway length than what you currently have allows you to be a positive financial situation. Whereas with your existing airport, I think you're just going to keep making those types of $250,000 investments, and the prospect to get out of that hole is not very good. So, Dick, let me stop there. I guess there's something.
If I could show past the 20-year mark, and what we have, one of the issues that we have with the current airport is our lease agreements. And generally, as an industry standard,
Back up over a little bit, so
Okay.
your backs to everybody.
Generally, as an industry standard, your lease agreement should have what's called a reversion clause. You give them a really good lease rate for about 20 or 30 years, and at the end of that lease agreement, it comes back to the city, the county, and the authority. Our current leases don't have that. So you're never going to get the benefit of the current lease agreements on the current airport. When we do the new airport, we will issue new lease agreements. And those new lease agreements will be modern, and they will include a reversion clause in them, so that you can see after the 20-year initial investment, some of those lease agreements will begin to revert back to the airport. So as we're posting a $2 million profit in these years building up, once those lease agreements revert and the city and the county will then take ownership of those, you start posting profits like $9 million, then 10, 13, 15, 18. It all depends on the amount of lease agreements we have. These are based on the current leases that we have right now. So that's an important difference between the old airport and the new airport.
Now, we're locked into land leases that are a bad deal for us, and that won't be the case in the new one. Now, these projections were done by the consultant based on the growth in jet business traffic and a few common numbers, so you got to mention those just a minute. It's not something we made up with, but they took the growth in general aviation, jet aviation, and just projected those
The FAA forecast.
numbers.
Yeah, so what we did is As part of our analysis, we took into account the longer runway length and how that would affect aircraft and fuel sales and so forth, and we factored those kind of things in. So like I said, we took into account that on the expense side, with a new place, we wouldn't have as many expenses to start with. And from an annual performance standpoint, you know, the airport is able to kind of chug along, and we used, you know, FAA forecasting data for some of the revenues and so forth. So we used industry standards in terms of revenue for lease rates and so forth.
And we did not put in there any ad valorem tax whatsoever. So if we do manage to get some business jets, particularly, we know the little ones mostly come with us, but if we do get some business jets, as they have at Falcon Field and every other field around with a jet-friendly runway, well, that's a bonus. Those ad valorem taxes come back city, county, and school. That's on top of any of this. This is just operating the airport as an airport from revenue and expenses. I'm guessing that generates some questions out there from the commissioner's board here. Anybody? I think we've taken a pretty serious look at this. I think that LPA has done a pretty conservative estimate. Starting off, like I said, 90% of our tenants, not even considering all of them moving forward, and it showed just what's happened at the other airports. You make money, you run this thing right, you could get in business jets. So I think my own opinion is that we'll be known for stepping up and doing this. If we don't, go back to the graph. The graph. If we do nothing, 20 years from now, group of commissioners will be sitting there looking at that blue line, continue to go down and continue to put money in. If we step forward, courage to move forward and go out on this limb a little bit, I think we can make the red line happen. I'm confident we can. What we need to do now is bring the land to the table. And I was asked about what are the cash flow requirements. So this has been fun up to now. Now the tough part here.
I have a question.
Okay.
Under annual performance, no, actually under debt service, what is the negative balance rollover?
Okay, good question. What we've done here on the new airport is rather than just assume you lose money and fund the deficit, we took the deficit of the new airport and kept it on the balance sheet, saying we don't want to just pay off that. We're going to keep it as a account payable, if you will, until we can generate enough cash to pay back what we put in there. So we no longer expect just to keep funding a deficit from now on. So we're carrying that operating deficit that you accumulate in the first few years and then start working it down and paying it all back in the next few years. So,
well, where are you going to show? Where are you showing that you're paying it back?
In year 9.
year 9.
Year 9, we take into account that deficit line, I'm sorry, in year 12. And in year 13, as we start making a profit, we start paying down, paying this back to the city and the county or whomever.
Okay, and where are you showing that?
Okay, let me clarify something you said. Actually, in year 9, if you look at the annual performance, we're becoming profitable, but we are paying back the accumulated deficit. And then it takes out to year 13 to you've paid off the accumulated deficit and have positive cash first time, have paid back the money you lost in the early years.
Okay. So what's the $225,000?
Another good question. One assumption made is that we have to build 10 T hangars to start with, bring the people who rent from us on the present airport to the new. We have to borrow approximately $1 million to build those 10 T hangars. So the rent from that pays back that loan, that's the $225,000. And when that loan's paid off, then of course that rent kicks in too.
That's another debt line we'll be carrying.
That'll be a debt line we're carrying for the initial 10 T hangars that we'll have to buy.
Okay, but I guess I just really don't understand this negative balance rollover. Because what you're saying is that this is what your negative balance is starting out at year one. Like right now, your negative balance is whatever it is that we're agreed to fund in the deficit.
Right.
And then in the ongoing years, you know, it goes up, and then in year 12, it starts to go down, and then it's non-existent in year 13.
Right.
So
We're saying if you lose 107,000 the first year and 107,400, you're losing money to start it. We're accumulating that, and as we get farther down, we're going to pay ourselves back. We're not just going to fund it and go on down the road. We're going to keep track of that deficit and force ourselves to fund it and pay it back.
and you plan on doing that at year 12?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be done by year 12.
Well, we have to be paying it back on the books, and then be able to physically pay it back per year, starting in year 12. Do I have that right?
What we're doing now is we're just losing money each year, and we just write it off and pay it back.
Right now, there's no plan to pay anything back. In this plan, we've incorporated a desire and an ability to pay back.
Well, I thought you said a few minutes ago you would be seeing a profit in year 12.
In year 12. in year-
Yes,
right.
we'll have paid back all of the accumulated losses to open the airport, paid it back, and have a net profit from that on.
For this debt service.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
yes.
No, we just, we talked about that. You can show no accumulated deficit. Just assume that you're going to pay for it out of current revenues from the city and county, but we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to just say you keep funding us through those years. We want to keep track of the I call it the opening cost, if you will, the startup costs that you're losing to become profitable, and pay it back. We want to pay it back and not just let it go. So that's what we've done.
What is the annual performance? It says income minus expenses with no accrual.
That's
What's that in English?
It is the